Welcome, one and all, to another Movie Manny podcast. It's been a very, very, very long while since I did another podcast on this channel. The last one I did was the first episode of WandaVision, and I was supposed to do like an episodic type of deal here, but I was just too lazy and I was too busy with other things. So, whoopsie doodle. But this time, I'm just gonna review the entire first season. I'll talk about the entire first season of Loki. Now, now, without further ado, on with the show. Loki is the third Marvel Studio made show for the Disney Plus app. People loved WandaVision. People applaud for Falcon and Winter Soldier, and now Loki's here. And I'll tell you one thing: there are so many people who are going more bananas than than some stuff about WandaVision. With the first episode of Loki, called Glorious Purpose, the synopsis of it is: after stealing the Tesseract in Avengers Endgame, Loki lands before the Time Variance Authority. In this first episode, the part where Loki takes the Tesseract from Avengers Endgame, he immediately goes away, and he lands somewhere in Mongolia, and he meets the Time Variance Authority, aka the TVA. And I think of them like Men in Black if they were time cops. Now, Loki gets brought into to the TVA, and gets put on trial for stealing the Tesseract. One of the people named Renona, she is she is basically the big boss of the whole of this whole entire place. While you also have Hunter B15, who is in some ways like the semi boss, and you have Mobius, who is basically the counselor for Loki to figure out what makes him tick, and all this. Loki wants to know why he's being put on trial, and of course, Ravana saying that he's guilty for taking the Tesseract, even though the Avengers and Thanos and like a bunch of other people before him disrupted the timeline, which I should have mentioned. Early on, while Loki was being taken, he had to go through these tests to know if he was like human or not, and also going through a wardrobe change in this cool looking jumpsuit where the back of his back says variant. And then he watches a TV with a cartoon tutorial type of why the TVA exists, why there's a sacred timeline, basically talking about the history of the TVA and why this is all happening, all because of the timekeepers, trying to make sure that any of these separate timelines like collide each other and cause a multiverse civil war. And so the time variance made like a sacred timeline, but sometimes a person known as a variant would cause something to make the timeline go all whoopsie doodle, and that's where the TVA comes in and tries to like clean it up. All this being told by a cartoon clock that goes by the name of Miss Minutes, voiced by the one and only goddess of voice acting herself, Tara Strong. Loki discovering that this is completely fucking ridiculous, ridiculous and a little bit hypocritical and a bit questionable of why the TVA is doing this, which thousands and thousands of people would agree. The fuck are you guys talking about? This is all kind of a hypocritical, like,
Angry German.
type of whatever. I can't say that word or else I'm going to get killed. So let's just say a nut C. Yeah, nut C type of scenario. So Renuna wanted to like erase Loki, but of course Mobius comes in. Mobius comes in and tries to like help out Loki, try to become his friend on why Loki is doing all this, and also try to show him I'll show him the stuff that was supposed to happen if he stayed and got arrested and didn't take the Tesseract and just like leave. He's supposed to like help out in some ways help out the Avengers, help out Thor Ragnarok, and also gets killed in Avengers Infinity War. That everything would be properly put in its place. Of course, Loki doesn't believe in any of this. He tries to leave. So Loki tries to take one of the office guys, try to tell him where is his Tesseract. One of the office guys that goes with the name Casey shows him the Tesseract, but he discovers that there are a bunch of Infinity Stones in this drawer, and yes, it's been like memed and talked about so much on the internet. Here, the Infinity Stones are completely useless. I still can't get over that. Over the thought they are completely, utterly, fucking useless to the TVA. So, all this time, Thanos's quest to find these stones, the sacrifices for Black Widow and Iron Man, to them, wasteless, and also kind of symbolic in some ways, being all like the new phase of the whole Marvel like cinematic universe. It's like, hey, no more if Infinity Stones. We're gonna focus more on the multiverse now. Oh, what a world! What a world! Oh, goodness gracious, why? So when Loki discovers that his entire plan of just taking over um, New York and trying to become like King Asgard is completely useless, he decides to help out with the TVA, help out Mobius with this problem that the TVA has been having, and that is a different variant of Loki is loose, and they have to go find this Loki. Before I go on, I just have to say that everyone's acting in this is pretty good. Tom Hiddleston as Loki, he does an amazing performance. When he has to he hams. When he has to be like serious, he gets serious. Whenever he feels sad, I feel sad with him. In some ways, you're being sympathetic for this guy, even though this is supposed to be like like the original Avengers, the first Avengers Loki. He doesn't get Loki doesn't get all like all like sentimental till Ragnarok. He doesn't get that way until then. But in this, it's like just go fast it up, just quickly. And of course, the other characters like Mobius, played by Owen Wilson. If you're wondering, Owen Wilson throughout the entire show, he does not say his iconic "wow."
Wow.
Yes, he doesn't say his iconic "wow" in the show, but there was a moment where it kind of came close. He kind of said "how" in one episode. yeah, Owen Wilson's performance is also pretty good. Him and Loki, Tom Hiddleston, uh, their chemistry is pretty good. It's pretty good. It's like a Top Gun, Lethal Weapon type of scenario, almost like with Falcon and Winter Soldier. They hit it off kind of rocky, and then they become like good. They become like, okay, we're good companions, we're good friends. Let's work together finally. Nona Renslayer. I hope I don't butcher this name. Gugu Betha Ra. In this first episode, not so much, but later in the season, you see more of what's her motivation and what's going on. And of course, Hunter B15, played by Wumi Masaki. She first starts off like a bit of a like a bit of a you know the same side with Renslayer. The whole place, the whole setting of this the whole entire show is also in some ways very nostalgic. Everything looks like something out of a 60s 70s office. Everyone dressed in like suits, and the place that they're all working at is in like some type of cool looking space between spaces type place. It's almost like a futuristic utopia that you've seen like a bunch of times. Like looking at you, Blade Runner. There's a lot more characters to meet along the way. We have episode 2 called The Variant. So in this episode, Loki is an actual TVA agent. He's in this cool suit, and I gotta tell you one thing: the costumes for Loki are so amazing. I don't know when Comic Con is coming out, but I just know that people are going to have a field day of just dressing up like Loki, either like jumpsuit variant Loki, TVA wearing a suit Loki, and of course President Loki, that you've seen like a bunch of times in the trailers. Loki, Mobius, and a bunch of other TVA cops are looking for this other Loki, and they do find this other Loki, a apocalyptic hurricane somewhere in the very far future. So Loki tries to find this other variant of himself, and he does. Loki tries to convince his other self to join him, thinking about taking over the TVA. But the other Loki had a different agenda, and ladies and gentlemen, this Loki isn't like a male Loki. It's actually a female Loki, a lady Loki, as you comic book people would say. But her actual name is actually Sylvie, which is which is a different Marvel character. Sylvie is actually the Enchantress, who is like in a different who's in a different comic book than Lady Loki. But fine, fine. We can go with this. We can go with this. So Lady Loki or Sylvie escapes, and our Loki follows after her into another place called Lamentis, which is the third episode. Lamentis, Loki finds out the variant's plan, but he has his own that will forever alter both their destinies. So again, uh, Lady Loki, aka Sylvie's idea and Sylvie's plan of what she wants to do with the TVA, which is quite understandable. She wants to figure out. She wants to figure out who's behind all this. Try to expose them and kill them off. So she and everyone else in the world can finally be free from the whole ultimate timeline. she wants everyone to be free from that. But of course Loki doesn't want it because again he wants to rule the TVA so he can have all this and all this and all that. But again they landed somewhere in a planet called Lamentis, and possibly rumors have been saying that Lamentis, this planet, will make its will make its appearance for the third Guardians of the Galaxy film. Now in this one, now in this, Lamentis is going to be destroyed by another planet that is about to like crash, crash down on it. They tried to go on this train so they can hijack this ship that is supposed to like take everyone out. But of course, the ship gets destroyed. While all this is happening, Mobius and Renslayer are trying to like figure out where these two Lokis are. While B-15 is acting all suspicious because earlier in the second episode, Sylvie tampered with B-15's mind controlling her. Still, earlier in the episode, she already did it to a different TVA agent. Beginning of the third episode, which is pretty cool. This particular TVA agent is actually a variant. She was actually a variant. She was on Earth. She used to be on Earth, but for some reason she's a TVA agent. Why is this happening? Let's continue on. Both Loki and Sylvie go on this train, and they talk about why they're here, why Sylvie's here. She was abducted from her family, her version of Asgard, when she was just a little kid. She has no idea why she's here, and she wants revenge of the TVA for taking away from her family, her kingdom, and all that stuff, which is pretty understandable. But and later on in the episode, the two of them start falling for each other. That's right. That's right. Loki is loving him or herself. I don't think it's incest or like anything, like anything like inappropriate if you love yourself. Honestly, I don't know what to say. I'm like walking away from this joke. I'm walking away. So Loki and Sylvie try to hijack this rocket, and of course this rocket gets destroyed. So Boo Hoo Hoo can't do anything about it, and we go to episode four. Episode four, the Nexus event. In this episode, again, Mobius and B-14 tries to find where both of them are at. They had like this weird Nexus event in the second episode. I have to refer back to the second episode. In the second episode, there was Mobius and Loki wanted to do a odd theory that the reason why this particular Loki variant was hiding from them was because she was hiding in the uh, apocalyptic years, the end of an era, type of natural disaster type of timeline, which there's no Nexus event happening, and Lamentis was another Nexus disaster event. But Loki and Sylvie falling for each other, that caused some type of unexpected event. And hey, they got him, they found him. So they go into like separate rooms. Of course, Loki tries to convince Mobius that they're actually all variants. Doesn't believe that, which then he has to investigate it for himself, and discovers that the whole thing is true. They really are variants. B-15 takes Sylvie back to that little hurricane apocalypse that they were at before, and she shows her that she too was a variant. So again, they got two believers. Renslayer is trying to prevent all this from happening, and I know what you're all thinking. Why is she doing this? Well, people have speculated, mostly theorized, that Ravana Renslayer is actually in cahoots with the real man behind the curtain of this whole operation. But later, it gets debunked. Hey folks, this is the third time I had to record this part. I just felt really, really tired yesterday. I was recording my little thing really, really late at night. I just had to go to bed. But now that I'm fully awake, I can have full concentration and full attention of explaining some episodes and my thoughts of the first season of Loki. Okay, here we go. Where was I? Oh yes, episode 4, the Nexus event. Mobius had to put him into this time loop, memorable event type of prison, whatever you call it, some type of time loop prison, where Loki meets a familiar face, Siv from the first 2 Thor movies. Yes, she makes an appearance. The original actress, Siv, played by Jamie Alexandra. She makes her appearance back into the show. And I know that she didn't make her appearance in the third Thor movie, Thor Ragnarok, because well, she was in the middle of a different TV show at the time, so she wasn't in it. But there have but now there have been rumors saying that that she will return in the fourth Thor movie, Thor: Love and Thunder. In this little time loop where Loki is stuck in, he he cut Siv's hair, and if any of you history aficionados out there, any Nordic history buffs out there, would know that this actually happened. Loki did cut Siv's hair in Nordic mythology, which is pretty interesting. During that time, Loki has been trying to reflect on why he cut Siv's hair and discovers that he just wants attention and of course, Sif is telling him that he'll be alone forever. Which later in a couple episodes, she gonna eat those words. Yeah. So Mobius comes in and tells Loki that he was right. He was right. Everyone's a variant. And Mobius tells Loki that you could be whoever you want to be. Just we got to figure out a way to like stop this whole thing. And right as Loki and Mobius gets out of there, Renslayer is up in Loki and Mobius' face with every other TVA agent around them, and before Mobius gets neutralized, he says one last word about him wanting to ride on a jet ski.
And wherever I had a life before the TVA came along, maybe I had a jet ski. That's what I'd like to do. Just riding around on my jet ski.
Prune him.
Wow.
Throughout the show, the guy has been obsessed with jet skis. I think before he was taken by from the TVA, I think people have been speculating that maybe he was a jet ski owner or he was a cool guy with a jet ski or something. Unfortunately, you don't see Mobius in a jet ski. Yes, you don't see him in a jet ski. So this whole like jet ski event, this whole little like oh we're gonna see him on one. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. So yeah. So what a wasted opportunity, Marvel. What a wasted opportunity. Just like there's like a wasted opportunity for Owen Wilson to say his trademark. Wow, missed opportunity, Marvel. What are you doing? So Mobius gets neutralized, and it was a very heartbreaking and holy shit, did not see that coming moment. Especially with Loki's face, he was just so surprised. Hell, when I watched it, I too was surprised. Renslayer takes Loki and Sylvie to the Timekeepers. Sylvie tries to ask Renslayer Why was she taken? Because early on in this episode, there was a flashback of when Sylvie was a child. She was abducted by the TVA. One of the TVA members was Renslayer before she became like the big boss, the judge, and whatnot. And Sylvie has been on the run ever since when she was just a tiny little child. And you kind of see why there's something really, really wrong with the TVA and their motives and their rules and everything else. It's completely hypocritical. We see the timekeepers, the three timekeepers from the comics, and you see them like floating on like chairs. It's almost identical to that one scene from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. It kind of almost looks and feels that way. Before Renslayer evaporates Loki and Sylvie, Eugene comes in, passes a sword to Sylvie. Sylvie, Loki, Renslayer, and a bunch of other TVA time cops fight. And when the fight was done, Sylvie throws her sword at one of the timekeepers. The head falls over, and surprise, surprise, he was a robot, a cyborg all along. Yep, it was a Wizard of Oz moment, folks. The timekeepers were actually fake. And again, Renslayer was surprised at this as well. Loki tries to confess his love to Sylvie, but then he gets evaporated by Renslayer. And Loki doesn't die in this weird world known as the Void. Loki gets to meet his different variants, which leads us into episode 5, Journey into Mystery. You finally see different variants of Loki. You see Loki as a president. You see a Loki as a kid, known as Kid Loki. You see Loki as an alligator. You see boastful Loki, who is basically holding his own version of Ramir, which is which is Thor's hammer. And then you see classic Loki, played by Richard E. Grant. And classic Loki looks like he's just like cosplaying in Comic Con. I just know this Comic Con is going to be filled up to the brim of Lokis. You mark my words. There are going to be Lokis in Comic Cons in years to come. In the void, the Lokis explain. All these Lokis explain to him that in the void, no one really escapes, and there's this like evil creature that will consume anything and everyone that falls in throughout the entire void. You see you see a little bit of Easter eggs. You see Yellow Jacket's helmet from the first Ant-Man movie, the first villain for the Ant-Man movie, Yellow Jacket. And then you see the Thanos helicopter. Yeah, no, seriously, Thanos used to have a helicopter. Then the Lokis try to hide into this bunker. The camera pans down into the bunker and into the dirt. Thor's you see Thor's hammer, and I thought it was like a little Thor in a jar, but no, it's actually a frog version of Thor, and and this is actually accurate because there was a comic series where Thor was a frog. So if Loki was an alligator, Thor was a frog. So it makes sense. Now Loki talks to his other variants of different Lokis of why they were here. Kid Loki's here for, well, actually killing Thor. Boastful Loki kind of like brags that not only he killed Thor, he also killed like Iron Man, Captain America, basically every single Avengers. Which I don't know if that's true or not. And then classic Loki talks about technically escaping Thanos and hid himself away from like Thor and everyone else in a remote planet. and right as he wanted to leave, the TVA comes in and tells him, "Yo, no, 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 you can't do that." So so yeah, that's their story of why they're here. But Loki has enough. Has enough. He tries to escape the hole, and then he comes across like President Loki and a bunch of other different Lokis. All the other Lokis start to start to fight one another, betraying one another, and in a very funny twist. Alligator Loki bites President Loki's hand off.
Why the hell is there an alligator in here?
He's a Loki.
And the scream that Tom Hiddleston does is just so priceless. I don't know about you, but it's priceless. Our original Loki, classic Loki, and Kid Loki and Alligator Loki, those four escaped the Loki brawl, and Loki tries to formulate a plan to formulate a plan to defeat this monster before they destroy them. Meanwhile, back at the TVA, Sylvie asks Renslayer where the hell Loki could be, and Renslayer tells Sylvie that that Loki is in the void, and she's trying to figure out a way to wanted to go back there, get Loki. And the only way she did it was she had to prune herself. Sylvie goes into the void. She almost gets attacked by the same monster. She sees Mobius coming in on a jet ski. No, I'm just kidding. He comes in like a pizza delivery car. Damn, it would have been better if I saw him in the freaking jet ski. You want the jet ski? Sylvie and Mobius tries to locate Loki, and still, meanwhile, up in the TVA, Renslayer talks to B-15 why she betrayed him, and B-15 tells her what she technically already knows. We're all variants. Why are you still like thinking that this is all like okay? It's just she. At first, I thought that maybe she is in cahoots with whoever is the real big boss of the whole TVA who started this, but it seems that not really. I think that not really. Later in the very very last episode, you see Renslayer she tries to like figure out what's going on, but she just can't. So she has to like go on and on her own by just leaving the TVA. That's later in the next episode. Loki and Sylvie tries to defeat this monster, but as usual, nothing is working. Mobius he goes back into the TVA with with his like little gadget where they come in and out. And then classic Loki sacrifices himself by distracting the monster by using his Loki magic to make his to like conjure up his version of Asgard. Classic Loki dies. I give it up for Richard E. Grant and that amazing performance. Give it up. Loki and Sylvie finally taps into the monster's psyche, and they go into like portal where they could meet up with with the real big boss, and then we cut to the next episode, which is called episode 6 for all time, always. This episode begins with basically hear the music of that Captain America and Peggy are like slow dancing together in the very end of Avengers Endgame, and you hear like voice clips and iconic lines from all of the Avengers. You hear all the lines, every single line ever said on in every single Marvel movie, and then we go into this trippy what's going on, a different space time continuum type of deal, and you still hear like different voices and music of like iconic scientists uh, and theologists talking about time and whatnot. In some ways, that was a very very cool cool moment for that episode. It was really really cool. Now, back to Loki and Sylvie. They go into this like deserted looking castle before they creepily before a creepy looking Miss Minutes comes out of nowhere and tries to tries to bribe them for what they want. Miss Minutes tries to tell Loki that he can go into a timeline where he actually kills Thor, rules Asgard, has the Infinity Gauntlet, and also she tries to bribe Sylvie for like going back to her regular timeline as a kid and as a kid, and she could just like wake up next morning and think that all this was a terrible, awful, no good dream. But of course, those two Lokis are not buying it, and they finally meet the head honcho of all this, and that is, you guessed it, folks, Kane the Conqueror. I mean, he who remains.
Oh my God!
Okay, it is Kane the Conqueror. But in this show, he's known as the He Who Remains. I know that King the Conqueror is being played by Jonathan Majors, who has also been confirmed to be like the next villain for in the upcoming new Ant-Man and Wasp movie. He's going to be the villain in this. Uh, in this episode, he doesn't look like his comic book counterpart. I think he's just like a regular he's just a regular guy. Now I know that there's been like different names for Kane the Conqueror. He who remains who remains, and he even mentions that he might have been like he might have been like a scientist, and he wanted he wanted to make the sacred timeline because his different variants were all kind of evil, so that's where it led to the whole multiverse secret war type deal. So that part's true, but the whole timekeepers thing was completely bogus. Meanwhile, back at the TVA, Renslayer is trying to figure out who really did create the TVA. And Mobius comes in. Renslayer is like super surprised. She tries to call him for backup, but backup is different with B-15 taking them into a school, which surprise surprise, Renslayer was actually a school teacher. Yes, in this. So I have a feeling that they possibly went back in time before Renslayer became Renslayer. She was a teacher this whole time. Back with back with the Lokis and the He Who Remains, Jonathan Majors' character. Again, he talks about the whole war and also tells them that that he basically paved the way for the two of them to come to him. Those two don't believe him, but in some ways he is telling the truth. This is where I kind of have to in some ways feel sorry for Sylvie, and you know what, I gotta talk about the actress playing Sylvie, Sophia Di Martino. She's amazing as in this. She's amazing. She's whenever she can be smug and silly, she can be smug and silly. Whenever she feels a little bit sad, you kind of do feel sad for her. And also her expressions of every time when Loki does something stupid, it's very priceless. It's like a very disappointed girlfriend who's being like, please stop, don't embarrass me like this. A pretty awesome performance from Sophia. Sylvie still doesn't believe still doesn't believe. She still wants to have her revenge of uh, have a revenge of being taken as a child, and also try to help people for the free will. But of course, of course, I'm just going to say Kane the Conqueror because it is Kane. Kane tells her that if you do that, there's going to be a evil version of him going to be taking control of all this, and the whole timeline will just crazy and just go crazy. But he also like tells them another option. The two of them could take his place and rule over. During the time where Kane is like explaining this, the timeline has already been like screwed up. The sacred timeline has already been like screwed up. Sylvie was about to kill Kane, but of course Loki tries to stop her because Loki thinks that maybe he's telling the truth, but Sylvie just so determined to like fill out her revenge. She just can't listen to reason, and honestly, it's understandable. She's been screwed up in the heads like so many times. Loki finally confesses his love to her. They both kiss. Yes, they both kiss. So, so you know that phrase, "Go fuck yourself." I think Loki has. Hey. Sylvie opens the door back to the TVA, pushes Loki into it, and then closes it. And then Sylvie kills Kang, and then Kang says, "See you soon." And you can tell that she regretted that, and and he was telling the truth. What she done was totally screwed up. She regrets it. Way to go, Sylvie. You just doomed us all because you couldn't listen. So the timeline has officially been fucked. Meanwhile, Loki tries to like locate Mobius and B-15. He finds them, but for some strange reason, the two of them don't remember who he is. And in a twist moment, a Planet of the Apes moment. Don't matter which Planet of the Apes I'm referring to, the original, the piece of shit Tim Burton remake. He looks up, and instead of like the three space lizard timekeeper guys, it's Kane the Conqueror.
You maniacs! You blew it up! Damn you! God damn you all to hell!
Right! So that's the first season of Loki. There are only like 6 episodes, and honestly, that's a good thing because the time on the time limits on these episodes are pretty long. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed Loki. I seriously love this whole time cop idea. I'm surprised that Hollywood hasn't like haven't banked on this idea. It has been confirmed that Loki will get a season 2, which is awesome. It does deserve a season 2. I surely hope that in the upcoming like Marvel movies, Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, and of course a little bit of Spider-Man, No Way Home. It's going to like temper into that whole timeline splitting up type of deal. I don't know what these movies are going to do, but I surely hope that Loki does make an appearance or something like, just like tell them like tells them like this is happening. You got to stop this. You got to stop this person now. The first season Loki is pretty good. I advise anyone who can withstand the odd science of time travel and multiverses and all these other scientific jargons. Most definitely give it a watch. It's another good show from Marvel. I want to thank you all for listening in to my podcast. I want you all to please like, comment, share, subscribe. Tell your friends, tell your family that I exist. When you do subscribe, don't forget to hit that notification bell to be notified of future videos that I have in store. Will I come back making another podcast with the What If series that is also coming out in August? We'll soon see.